Sir, your interpreter is lying to you. Be careful.
He was seconds away from signing the contract that would secure his company's future. Everyone around the table looked satisfied. The investors nodded. The translator calmly repeated every word. Everything sounded right, but the waitress leaned closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Sir, don't sign." He looked up. The translator beside you lying. What the man did next was shocking. Before we continue, tell us in the comments what time it is and where you are watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's get back to our story. The pen was already in Marcus Webb's hand when everything changed. He had spent 14 months chasing this deal. 14 months of cold mornings, missed dinners, and the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that comes not from working hard but from working scared. His company, Webb Capital, was hemorrhaging quietly, not enough to bleed out in public, but enough that he felt it every time he looked at the quarterly reports. This partnership with the Deng Group was supposed to stop the bleeding. More than that, it was supposed to prove something to his board, to his rivals, and to the ghost of his father, who had died believing Marcus would never amount to anything serious. The restaurant was called Eclat, one of those places where the lighting makes everyone look like they're worth more than they are. Marcus sat at the best table, naturally. His business contact, Vincent Lau, sat across from him, composed in the way of men who have won many rooms before this one. Between them, a contract. Beside Marcus, their interpreter, a polished, well-dressed man named Daniel Tsai, recommended by Vincent's firm and vouched for twice over. Everything felt airtight. Everything felt ready. Then the waitress appeared. Her name tag said Elena. She was in her late 20s, slight, with the kind of eyes that had seen too much and decided to keep watching anyway. She refilled Marcus's water glass without a word, leaned just slightly closer than necessary, and said something that stopped the air in the room. "Mr. Webb." Her voice was barely above a breath. "The translation you're hearing, it isn't accurate. The terms he's telling you are not the terms on that page." Marcus didn't move. He kept his expression neutral, the way his father had taught him to play cards, which was the only useful lesson the old man ever gave him. He glanced at Tsai, who was smiling the professional, frictionless smile of someone who has done this before and expects to do it again. Then Marcus looked back at the page. The contract sat there like a confession he hadn't read yet. "Mr. Webb." Tsai's voice was smooth and urgent, like oil on water. "We shouldn't delay. Vincent has other commitments after this. A hesitation now sends a wrong message." Marcus set the pen down. Not dramatically, slowly, carefully, like a man choosing his ground. He had been here before, not in this restaurant, not with these particular wolves, but in this feeling. The pressure of a room, the sense of time narrowing, the polished certainty of someone who needs you to stop thinking and start signing. His father had felt that pressure too, years ago, on a Tuesday afternoon in a Cincinnati bank, when a loan officer with a firm handshake and an easy grin had walked him through paperwork that stripped the family's hardware store out from under them in 18 months. His father never recovered. Not financially, not in any other way that mattered. Marcus understood, in his chest more than his mind, that some rooms were designed to make you forget you had a choice. He looked at Elena. She was pretending to clear a nearby table, her back partially turned, her hands working automatically. But she hadn't moved away. She was still there, close enough to hear if he called her, still in it despite the obvious risk to herself. That told him something. "Daniel," Marcus said, his voice even, "walk me through the final clause again, word for word." Tsai did so, quickly, fluently, the words falling out of him like a rehearsed performance. But as he spoke, Elena turned her head slightly, just a fraction, and Marcus caught the small, precise movement. A single, quiet shake of her head. Not that. That's not what it says. The memory arrived before he could stop it. His father at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers, age 61, and suddenly old in a way he hadn't been the week before. Saying, "I didn't understand what I was signing, Marcus. I trusted the man. That was the whole of my mistake." And the thing was, he said it without anger. He said it like a man confessing to stupidity rather than innocence, and that was somehow worse. Marcus pushed the contract gently across the table. "I'd like to see the original Mandarin copy." A beat of silence, the kind that has temperature. "Of course," Tsai said. The smile stayed in place, but something behind his eyes shifted. A door closing, an adjustment being made. He produced the document. His hands were perfectly steady. Marcus held the pages and looked at words he could not read, which was the point. He had built a successful company partly on the discipline of knowing exactly what he didn't know. He pulled out his phone, dialed his assistant Grace on speaker, and placed the phone on the table without apology or explanation. "Grace, I need you to read something for me. I'm going to hold each page up." Vincent Lau, who had been silent through all of this, shifted in his chair. Tsai began to object, something about propriety, about the time, about the signal this sent to their partners. Marcus looked at him without expression and said nothing. The silence did the work. Grace's voice came through the speaker, calm and professional. She'd been with Marcus for 7 years. She had seen him in bad rooms before. She read. Her voice didn't change and register, didn't editorialize. She didn't have to. The words were enough. The contract, as written, did not establish a partnership. It transferred operational control. What Tsai had been translating as mutual governance was, in the original text, exclusive directorship. What he described as shared equity was plainly subordinated interest. The company Marcus had spent a decade building would have become, in effect, a managed asset under Vincent's corporate umbrella, with Webb Capital's name on the door and someone else's hand on the wheel. The silence after Grace finished reading was long enough to be its own kind of answer. Marcus closed the document. He felt the anger, yes, clean and justified and entirely controlled. But underneath it, something else. Something that felt almost like relief. He had almost been his father. He had stood at the edge of that exact same cliff and almost taken the same step, dressed up differently this time, in nicer clothes and better lighting. He looked at Elena, who was standing very still now, watching him. Her expression was impossible to read, which he respected. She didn't know if she was about to be thanked or fired. "Thank you," he said to her, simply, directly. "What you did took courage." She didn't smile. She nodded once, the way people do when they've done something hard and aren't interested in being celebrated for it. Tsai attempted a defense, something about misinterpretation, about dialect variance, about the good faith intentions of everyone present. Marcus let him finish. Then he said quietly, "You can go." And the quiet was more definitive than any raised voice would have been. Vincent Lau surprised him. He didn't leave immediately. He sat for a moment, looking at the table, and then said, "I did not know the full extent of the language used." Whether that was true or not, Marcus couldn't be certain. What he was certain of was that he had no interest in finding out. He thanked Vincent for his time, stood, and ended the meeting the way he should have begun it, on his own terms. He turned back to Elena before he left. She was from Guadalajara originally, 31 years old. Her mother had been ill for 2 years, and Elena was the only one supporting her, working doubles at a claw and a second job on weekends. She had recognized the setup at the table because her uncle, a tailor in Houston, had been conned in precisely the same way years ago: a translator, a contract, a rushed signing. The family hadn't recovered for a decade. She had watched it happen once. She had decided tonight that she would not watch it happen again, even if it cost her the job. Marcus listened to all of it without interrupting. When she finished, he asked her one question. "What would you want to do if you could do anything in this building other than serve tables?" She paused, then said, "Operations. I'm good at solving problems that other people don't see yet." He believed her. He offered her a role, not in the way powerful people sometimes offer things to people they've inconvenienced, as guilt dressed up as generosity, but in the way you offer something to someone whose value you've just witnessed firsthand. A training position in his operations department, real work with real stakes, reporting directly to Grace until she found her footing. She said she'd think about it. He gave her his card. 3 weeks later, Elena Vargas walked into Webb Capital's Chicago office for her first day of work. Marcus was in a board meeting when she arrived, which was intentional. He didn't want a ceremony. She didn't need one. What she needed, and what she got, was a chance to prove what she already knew about herself. The deal with Deng Group was dead. Webb Capital survived the quarter on a smaller, cleaner agreement with a firm in Singapore, less money, better terms, reviewed by 3 independent translators. Marcus made that policy official, which his board initially questioned and later quietly commended. His father never got a second chance. Marcus understood that he had been given something the old man never had, a stranger willing to speak when silence would have been safer. He didn't waste it. And the last thing he did before leaving Eclat that night was walk back to Elena and say the thing he actually meant. "My father lost everything because no one at his table did what you just did for me." She looked at him steadily. "Then let's make sure it was worth it." It was. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that humanity still shows up when it counts. Drop a comment below. What city are you watching from? And have you ever had a stranger show up for you at exactly the right moment? Subscribe for more stories that prove compassion is still the most powerful force in the world.